Hey everybody, welcome to this very short video on detecting the Log4J, Log4Shell exploits with Cribl LogStream. My name is Nick Hudecker. I'm joined by my colleague Ed Bailey, and we want to talk very quickly about what this exploit is and how you can use LogStream to help you detect it, enrich those data sources so you can better inform your security research in your enterprise, in your organization. All right, so let's get started. The easiest way to think about this Log4j exploit is like any other kind of supply chain. In automotive, this is a great example with the Takata airbags. Something like an airbag is not unique to a given automaker. It is something that everybody uses, and it doesn't make any sense for each automaker to make their own or to have a number of suppliers. So the whole airbag industry kind of coalesced around one or two really large suppliers that ended up providing airbags to 19 different automakers. Well, this created a single point of failure in automotive supply chains to the tune of about 100 million airbags that might spontaneously explode due to a manufacturing fault. And this has led to deaths, and it has created a very complex safety recall. Many of these cars are still on the road today. Log4j is very similar, right? There's very little value in creating your own logging API, kind of re-rolling all of these things that may not be standard across projects. And so Log4j became this single source of failure as well. And this has existed in the wild. This failure with Log4j has existed in the wild for 7 years. It's existed since 2014. What is Log4j? If you're not aware, it's a common logging library for Java applications. These are used for anything from internal projects that you might build for your own corporation to large enterprise software apps that you might buy from an Oracle, an IBM, maybe a service that you're using in Google Cloud and so on. So it is really used everywhere. Millions of applications are impacted by this. And it was not designed with this in mind, right? It's a logging library. It was meant to make things easier for application developers, IT ops to understand what's happening in their application, send that log data to multiple locations. A feature that got added to Log4j since 2014 is this idea of the JNDI, or Java Naming and Directory Interface. And so what this effectively, the side effect of this is JNDI lets you do lookups and effectively download code into your JVM. So it gets a URL, and JNDI will call that URL wherever it is and download the source of, if it happens to be a Java class, it will download that Java class and execute it in your JVM. So this is obviously really bad news. And it's been rated a CVE of 10. So this is as bad as a security vulnerability gets. It makes it incredibly easy for bad actors to execute code that they wrote in your environment. That's really the problem here. This allows for remote code execution. And so some of the easy ways for you to start to think about how do you prevent these kinds of attacks? Well, you can block these URLs at the web application firewall layer. You can disable Log4j. You can patch it, although we've seen multiple iterations of this patch already that have not been successful at fixing all of the corner cases. And there's a few other things that you can do to try and get in front of this Log4j vulnerability, effectively preventing either Log4j from working or preventing that or turning off that feature so that you're less concerned about, is it going to be executing remote code in my environment? And so this is kind of the overview of what the problem is, how pervasive it is. This is something that Ed and I believe is going to exist in the wild for decades. You can use LogStream, Cribl's observability pipeline product, to help you get in front of this and deal with this massive volume of data. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ed, and he's going to talk about how you can make that happen. Ed, over to you.
Thanks, Nick. I think you're so right. This is just an incredibly big issue. The scope and scale of impacted applications, how trivial it is to remotely execute something is just it's mind blowing. I have a tremendous amount of empathy with the IT and security teams right now across the world who are trying to mitigate this issue and get their software patched. It is something else.
Yeah.
So what I want to talk about was how can we use Cribl LogStream in order to enhance your security process pipeline. Typical pipelines have 5 steps: ingestion, enrichment, incident response, detection, and a SOAR response. The idea is that you can use LogStream to tie these processes together into an end-to-end process that helps you see your data, get better data, enrich and use your threat intel, help supplement your incident response process, help with your detections, and also trigger SOAR responses to either alert you to something or run a playbook and automate a response. So let's talk about data ingestion. Many people who know about Cribl LogStream just automatically start thinking about data ingestion, how you can use LogStream to reduce your cost. What I want to talk about is how you can use LogStream to make your data better, to reduce your signal to noise ratio, reduce your noise, enhance your signal. Some very common options, especially that help with Log4J, is security teams need to see their web server logs better, their application logs in general. With LogStream, you can then take your Nginx, you can take your Apache, your Tomcat, all of your access logs, parse out that data, extract those fields, and make it more searchable so that you can then start to look for the signatures of this type of exploit, so that you can look for strings or even obfuscated strings that of a JNDI lookup, but also make it fast. And so you get better data, you get rid of the data you don't want, the ability to parse it, and optimize what you're doing. The next step is enrichment. It's very easy to integrate LogStream with various threat intel providers. Gray Noise is probably one of the best that I would recommend. Gray Noise, for example, it has a free list IOCs on GitHub of known Log4j scanners. And so, for example, you can have an automated process download that list of IOCs. And then what LogStream is going to do is have a matching process to see, is this web server or is this request coming from a known IP? And then it's going to tag it with whatever you want, but it could say Log4j equals true, Gray Noise equals true. So instead of having to run search time lookups and bog down your systems, you're just looking for that tag as an indicator of a potential compromise. You can also use enrichment to add GIP data, for example, tag if it came from some sort of network or country that's suspect. Also, you can tag it with asset data. Big struggle with IT teams to understand, okay, so this has potentially been compromised. Who owns it? What applications on it? These are real data management issues that have existed in the IT space for a long time. And the enrichment is a way to help speed that response. Next is incident response. Incident response is key. LogStream doesn't replace your incident response, but it does supplement it because it gives you the ability to what's called replay in order to take a forensic copy of data out of your object store, whether it's Azure, GCP, or AWS. And then let's pretend you have an asset that's potentially been compromised. You can say, I want all the data that's in scope for this asset from this time period to this time period. LogStream will pull that data out of the object store and dump it back into your platform system. So that way you're looking at the forensic copy of all the data. So that way your incident response team can reconstruct what happened and start looking for indicators of lateral movement. It's very powerful. And it's also easy. You're not asking a third-party team to restore data. You're not going out to another team, something that you can do yourself with the knowledge that you have all of the available data. It's very, very powerful. There is a detection aspect as well. So we have a nice blog that was written about how you can use LogStream to actually detect the JNDI exploit and then trigger either going to say PagerDuty for an alert, or finally also with SOAR, trigger a SOAR playbook. to automatically respond to the event. If you are going to look at the blog, think of it more of a proof of concept. It's very, very easy to obfuscate the JNDI lookup. So you want to use a lookup yourself if you're going to do this that has all the potential different ways to obfuscate. There's also floating around a very large and incredibly complex regex expression to use as well. But that capability is there of matching data and triggering a ticket or a store playbook. And finally, this is something every security team, I hope, is invested in, the idea of security automation, where I have a playbook of preset tasks. So say, for example, I see an IP address from Gray Noise that I know is a suspected Log4J scanner. A good SOAR playbook would then be triggered and have the ability to go to your ASAs and then block that IP at the perimeter. No more, because it's blocked to the perimeter, no more threat. And that detection automation response is key. This is an example of how you can use LogStream to tie all these processes together and help make your SOC much more efficient. Next slide, please, Nick. I did also want to list out some very specific tactical features that you can use LogStream for. Number one, it has some examples of keyword and route strings that you can use, various examples of obfuscation of how you can use that you can use in LogStream to try to detect the specific exploit. You can also extract domains from keyword strings, add them to your block list, extract commands so that you pass that off to your incident response team in order to understand, okay, this thing landed, this payload has landed, it's gone off. What did it try to do? We already talked about GeoIP enrichment. Very, very helpful. It's just especially ancillary players. If, for example, like going back to the Gray Noise list of IOCs, that if you see these IPs coming from a particular network or a particular ISP, good GeoIP information from XMind can help you get the association from the entire ISP. You might want to consider if it's a particular ISP that's been either compromised or just doesn't care, that you want to block all the data from that ISP. This gives you that context to try to make that decision. And finally, replay attack streams allows users to rerun attacks, test patches as well. So you can get just more information, keep testing, get just better understanding what's going on through data. Very, very powerful set of capabilities that only LogStream is going to provide. Finally, let's go to our last slide, Nick. So this is very important. If you haven't ever used LogStream before, we offer an incredible set of sandboxes that you can go hands-on with the tool, work with data with no friction. You don't have to do anything. Spend about an hour on the tool, work through the guide of how to do common tasks to get an idea. Is this something that I want to do? I'm pretty sure if you do this, you'll see, okay, this is great. I want to get more information. We also have for LogStream Cloud, a free account where you can then, if you choose to, you can pump data off your laptop, off of a test system to LogStream Cloud, process it, get a feel for it. You can also send that data somewhere else if you want. But again, no friction. You get your hands you get your hands on the product, and you can start seeing the value. And finally, join our community at cribl.io/community. Come and join our Slack channel of over 3,000 strong. And we have a lot of people love to help, love to talk, and see how can we help you with your data. Nick, do you have any more closing remarks?
Just one, the free account for LogStream Cloud at cribl.cloud is a free terabyte a day.
There you go.
And that's quite a bit of data. And we can certainly talk about, what your needs might be going forward. We're just trying to help with this overwhelming security incident. So make sure to join the community, hop in. We'd love to chat, see how we can help, figure out what the right detection pattern might be for you, share notes with your colleagues. It's a pretty vibrant community. So definitely check that out if that's something you want to investigate. But with that, Ed and I are pretty easy to find online. I'm at nhudecker, so NHEUDECKER on Twitter. Ed, what's your Twitter handle?
eBailey1367. Love to talk.
Yeah. So if we can help with anything, don't hesitate to reach out. With that, we're going to wrap up. So thank you very much. I hope this has been helpful, and always happy to chat and keep the conversation going. And good luck. I know it's going to be a really tough Christmas season.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, yes. So much so.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.